The Peter Schiff Show.
I wanted to take some time and record a special podcast today, really having nothing to do with the markets and the economy, and just focusing on a topic that I haven't discussed in quite some time. Although I do believe that the politics surrounding this event are relevant to the economy and to the markets because it really is setting in motion or has set in motion political winds that are blowing the country in a direction that is very detrimental to the U.S. economy and to the markets. Because I think it was 2012 when the Trayvon Martin story really took off in the United States. And, if you remember, George Zimmerman is the person who killed Trayvon Martin. And initially, everybody was quick to believe the completely ridiculous sounding story that was basically being perpetrated by the Martin family and their attorney as to what happened and the circumstances surrounding the death of Trayvon Martin. And I was one of the earlier people who came out and I was defending George Zimmerman. And, I took a lot of heat back then initially because people were saying, hey, it's racist for me to be defending George Zimmerman. But the reality was, I thought it was racist for the people to have believed the complete nonsense, a ridiculous story about what happened. It made a lot more sense to me, just judging by the facts, right? Not looking at the races of the individuals or any of that, just judging by the facts. George Zimmerman's version of events made sense. The other version made no sense at all. I think it was the racists who were so quick to dismiss uh, George Zimmerman's version, which made sense. It was supported by all the evidence and other witness testimony that came out, rather than simply believing the parents of Trayvon Martin or their lawyer because they happen to be black. Right? I don't judge people based on their skin color or their sex. The same thing happened with the Kavanaugh hearings, where, oh, here's a woman making an allegation. Well, we must believe this person because she's a victim and she's a woman. Well, why? Why believe somebody just because they happen to be a woman? Why believe somebody just because they happen to be African American? Believe something if it's credible. And if it's not credible, well, then you got to call it out. And so I was willing to call out the fact that I thought George Zimmerman was innocent of the allegations that were being leveled against him. And I think other people were afraid to say that. Even though they might have thought it, they were afraid because the idea is that if somebody alleges something, if somebody who's black says something happened, and then you doubt them, well, then you're a racist too. How dare you not believe this person? You must not believe them because they're black. No, I don't believe them because their story makes no sense. Their story is unbelievable. The same thing happened with Jussie Smollett. I didn't think Jussie Smollett was lying because he was black. I thought he was lying because the story made no sense whatsoever. It was a complete nonsense. The people who were so quick to believe that nonsense, they're the racists. They wouldn't have believed anything like that if a white person had said it. But because Jussie said it, he was a double victim. He was black and he was a homosexual. So you really had to believe him. But anyway, the reason that I'm talking about this again is because George Zimmerman is in the news again. And the reason he's in the news is because he filed a $100 million lawsuit against the lawyer who represented the Martin family, the Trayvon Martin family, his biological mother and his biological father, a couple of witnesses or a witnesses, and the prosecution and the state of Florida for basically perpetrating a hoax, right? And the reason I'm really talking about it is the way the media is covering this again, all over again. They're doing the same thing, right? They're writing all these stories, and you can read them on the line if you Google George Zimmerman. All these stories about how dare this guy. I mean, he already got away with murder, and now he's victimizing the murder victim's family all over again. How dare he? The nerve of this guy. This just proves he's such a low life, person, right? They're just hanging him all over again. And none of these articles that I've read, and there's numerous articles about this lawsuit, None of them actually discuss the merits of the lawsuit, like why this lawsuit is here. Instead, they're attacking Zimmerman, they're attacking his lawyer, but they're ignoring the actual basis for the lawsuit, which are new facts that have just come to light, right? That were just discovered that George Zimmerman did not have until they were brought to his attention by a filmmaker, guy by the name of Joel Gilbert, who just came out with a documentary. It's a 2-hour documentary, The Trayvon Hoax. He also has a book with the same title. You can get a copy of the movie and the book on Amazon, or you can go to thetrayvonhoax.com and you can rent it. You can buy a copy. I've already watched it. In fact, I've watched it twice. I haven't read the book yet, but he makes not just a compelling case, I would say an irrefutable case that there was witness fraud perpetrated, knowingly perpetrated by the Martin family at this trial in an attempt to frame an innocent man for murder. Now, nobody wants to deal with that reality. And I'm talking about, again, I talked to the producer, Joel Gilbert. I'm going to be doing a special interview with him for the podcast. I'm going to make it on video as well for YouTube. And I'm going to do that next week. And so in advance of that, though, I wanted to give everybody the heads up that it's coming. Go out, go to the website, thetrayvonhoax.com, and watch this film. So you would have watched the film before you hear this interview that I'm going to do with the guy who produced it and uncovered this hoax. But I want to kind of go over a little bit of the facts now, so I won't have to do that during the interview. I have some other things I want to discuss with Joel Gilbert, but I want to kind of just go over the facts again in case some people don't remember it. And I'm going to go over the evidence that was uncovered by this film. And then again, don't take my word for it. After you listen to this podcast, go immediately to the TrayvonHoax.com and get a copy of the movie and either rent it or buy it. But anyway, so if you recall, the way the narrative was originally framed in the media was that a white racist, right, George Zimmerman, right, stalked and murdered a black child, a boy who was on his way home. He was carrying some Skittles and some iced tea. But the reason that he was profiled by this white racist, right, was because he was wearing a hoodie, right? And so it was, just racial profiling, and he was killed because he was black, and it's open season on blacks, and we need to punish this white racist for this racist act, right? And that was initially what the media believed, right? And then even as the facts started to come out slowly, right, to completely contradict this narrative, everybody kind of held steadfast to their initial belief, right? Because it turned out, right, that George Zimmerman wasn't a racist. In fact, he wasn't even white, right? He turned out that he was Hispanic. I mean, he had a last name Zimmerman because his father was of German descent, but his mother was Hispanic, and he looks Hispanic. He identifies Hispanic. He speaks Spanish, so he's not really white, right? But, so then, all right, that didn't stop the media. They decided to call him a white Hispanic, right? So they can keep the word white in there, right? As if, they never called President Barack Obama a white African American. I mean, he's half white. But no, he got to be a full African American. But Zimmerman, since he did a bad thing, well, he must at least be half white. So he became known as a white Hispanic. I'd never really heard that term before. But also, he was 5'9". He wasn't a very physically intimidating person. He was overweight, out of shape, and he wasn't a MAGA guy, right? He was a liberal Democrat. The guy had a history of advocating for black causes or African Americans, and he was a mentor, a big brother to African American teenage boys. So clearly, nothing the way he was originally portrayed. But that didn't change anything about the media's call to try him and convict him. He's a racist. He's really a bad person. And then, of course, we get to find out slowly more information about Trayvon Martin, because initially they circulated a picture of Trayvon when he was 10 years old, and oh, he looks so cute. How could anybody murder this cute little boy? Well, it turns out that that little boy had grown up, and he was a 17-year-old young man, right? 6 feet tall, in good shape, very athletic. And, they also had a lot of information about him. He had been expelled from school several times for violence, for fighting, right? He was a tough guy. He was a fighter. He fancied himself a gangsta. That's how he called himself. They had his cell phone. They had all the tweets with him and his friends. And, he was a fan of fighting. He, World Star, this website with lots of street fights. He was watching a lot of those. He had them on his phone. His older brother had texted him, "Hey, Trayvon, when are you going to teach me how to fight?" I mean, you're a good fighter when your older brother wants you to teach you how to fight. He talked about his fights. He bragged about them. One guy in particular, he bragged about beating up. He beat up this snitch, right? But he said that he's not done beating him up because he hasn't bled enough yet. He wants to go beat him up some more because he only bled from his nose. And so he was a violent kid, not necessarily a bad kid, but he was a fighter, and he was proficient with his fists, and he was a good fighter. And then the evidence that came out basically was overwhelming in that this was a case of self-defense, right? It was not the way it was originally framed. In fact, there was an eyewitness, right? The only eyewitness who was there, who lived in the community, who actually heard the screams and opened up the door to see what was going on. He testified at the time that Trayvon Martin, the black man, was on top, Zimmerman was lying on the bottom, and that Trayvon was raining down blows on him, MMA style, as George Zimmerman was screaming for help, and no help was coming. This guy actually saw this. And of course, all of that was consistent with the forensic evidence. George Zimmerman had a broken nose, right? He had bruises on his face. He had lacerations on the back of his head from where Trayvon had been pounding his head on the pavement. The only bruises that Martin had, other than the single gunshot wound, the only bruises on his entire body were on his knuckles, right? I mean, so clearly there was an open and shut case here. There was no doubt, right, that what happened. And that's why the police initially said, hey, we're not going to prosecute. It's self-defense. There's no crime, right? But as soon as that happened, everybody was up in arms. Oh, how dare this guy get off? They didn't want to admit that their rush to judgment was wrong. So they just dug in their heels, and they were just as convinced as ever that this white Hispanic racist murdered this little boy, right? Even though clearly that was not the case. So then what happened is the attorney for the Trayvon Martin family came out. This is a couple of weeks later, and all of a sudden he's located the girlfriend of Trayvon Martin. And Trayvon Martin's girlfriend just happened to be on the phone with Trayvon Martin moments before he was attacked by George Zimmerman. Right? She was on the phone with him. The phone records show that that Trayvon was on the phone and he was talking to his girlfriend. And she recorded a statement with this attorney. And her statement basically contradicted all of the evidence, all the testimony, and basically validated the false narrative that Zimmerman was the aggressor. He chased down and stalked Trayvon. He beat Trayvon. Trayvon was afraid, trying to get away, and Zimmerman killed him in cold blood. Right? That was basically what they were trying to claim. Right? And so according to the attorney at the time, he located the girlfriend. He didn't want to give out her name because she was a minor. She was a 16-year-old minor. But, she basically blows away, according to the lawyer, the idea that it was self-defense. And based largely, almost entirely really on that, and plus, the woman claimed that the person screaming that it was Trayvon, even though the father had said it wasn't Trayvon, and the eyewitness clearly identified Martin as the one who was being beaten and who was screaming. But based on that, and mostly based on the on the record statement of this woman, that's why he was charged. And in fact, initially, of course, the police didn't just take it based on the recording, right? They wanted to actually meet and depose the girlfriend and actually talk to her and get her statement officially, not just for an audio from the attorney. And this is where the hoax comes in. This is what the film really uncovers, which is amazing. And this is what happened. So, yes, Trayvon Martin was in fact on the phone with his girlfriend and who was 16 years old. In fact, he spent about 4 or 5 hours, according to the phone records, on the phone with her that day. And, they shared over 30 text messages with each other that day on the phone. And her name happens to be Brittany Diamond Eugene. And she goes by her middle name, Diamond. So everybody refers to her as Diamond, not Brittany. But her legal name is Brittany Diamond Eugene, but her actual name is Diamond. And so the police wanted to speak to Diamond, and they had her address, right? So they drove to the house where Diamond lived. And when they got there, though, they were told that Diamond wasn't home to go to some other address. And so they then went to another address and they knocked on the door and they were introduced to a young woman whose name was Rachel Jeantel, who was not 16 but who was 18 years old. And Rachel Jeantel said, "Oh, I'm Diamond Eugene. That's my nickname, right? People call me Diamond Eugene, but my real name is Rachel Jeantel." And so the police then interviewed and took the statement from Rachel Jeantel claiming to be Diamond Eugene. But the problem is, she wasn't Diamond Eugene. There actually was a real Diamond Eugene who lived at the very address that the police initially went to, who was the same age as the lawyer claims she was. In fact, if you listen to the audio that was recorded by the lawyer of the 16-year-old, the real Diamond Eugene, it sounds nothing like the audio that you hear from the 18-year-old Rachel Jeantel. And what Joel Gilbert uncovered is these women, girls, were actually half sisters. So what probably happened, and you can tell from the cell phone records that were examined, is the family and friends were putting a lot of pressure on the 16-year-old uh, Diamond Eugene to give false testimony about what happened because she was on the phone and so she could say whatever she wanted, right? Because nobody knows, right? I mean, hey, whatever you say you're going to be believed, so just this is what you're going to say, this is the narrative, you're going to talk about this. And she was reluctant to do that for obvious reasons, but eventually she gave in after a lot of pressure, and she did record this statement, which was clearly rehearsed, and where the lawyer pretty much led her the entire time, and she repeated the talking points that they had been spreading. But then, of course, when the police actually wanted her to go on record to swear under penalty of perjury, she backed out. She didn't want to do it for whatever reason. Maybe she just didn't want to lie, or she didn't want to go public. She was two-timing Trayvon prominently at the time. She had another boyfriend, and probably she didn't want this other boyfriend to know that she was also dating Trayvon Martin. So whatever reason, she did not want to go on record. She did not want to give this false testimony. So the Martin family and their lawyer, they obviously had to figure out something to do. And so they decided, since the real Diamond Eugene was not going to testify, well, they just would put up an imposter, a fake Diamond Eugene, her half sister. Plus, also, you have to think about it from this perspective. If the statements made by uh, Diamond Eugene's half sister, right? If that storyline was actually what happened, right? And if Trayvon's girlfriend heard all the things that they claim that she heard, why wouldn't she want to testify about that? I mean, if it was honest, if she wasn't going to commit perjury, I mean, of course she would want to testify. Wouldn't she want to be instrumental in locking up the murderer of her boyfriend? I mean, even if she had two boyfriends, she obviously cared about Trayvon. I mean, she would want justice for Trayvon. I mean, all these people who never even knew Trayvon wanted justice. Why wouldn't his own girlfriend want justice for Trayvon? The only reason it makes sense that she did not want to testify is because it was a lie. She knew it was a lie. Number one, she didn't want to risk perjury and committing a crime, right? And she didn't want to be under the spotlight telling a lie, and she was concerned that, she might be found out. But also, yes, she did have another boyfriend, and she didn't want to risk losing that relationship for a lie, to tell a lie, to go out and pretend that something happened that she knew didn't happen. I mean, she probably knew that Trayvon was looking for a fight because he probably told her, "Hey, honey, I'm going to go beat the shit out of this guy. I'll call you back after I'm done kicking his ass," right? That's probably what he said, or words to that effect. And so she was not going to risk going to prison herself. She was not going to risk losing her other relationship to tell a lie. So She backed out. And so they had to find somebody else who was dumb enough to do it. And that's exactly what they did. And then, so the half sister uh, gave this statement that was a complete lie. She pretended that she was on the phone with Trayvon Martin when she was not. She pretended that she was his girlfriend when she was not. And everybody allowed her to go on the stand and give this testimony. And this is a complete fraud. Right? How could George Zimmerman not be outraged to find out the truth about what happened? Sure, yes, he was acquitted. Ultimately, their plan to frame him didn't work, but this false narrative really took hold. I mean, the guy's life has been ruined, right? He can't get a job. I mean, who's going to hire George Zimmerman? I mean, that's can you imagine how disruptive that's going to be to your business if he's working for you? No one's going to date him. How do you bring George Zimmerman to a party, home to your friend? Here's my boyfriend, George Zimmerman. I mean, this guy's life has been ruined. I mean, I'm surprised he's even still living in the country. But the amazing thing is that there's no coverage being given to what happened. And there is no doubt in my mind, right, that this happened. There's no doubt in my mind that the woman who testified and pretended to be Diamond Eugene was not Diamond Eugene. I mean, first of all, what's the odds that a woman, right, whose name is Rachel Jeantel, what's the odds that her nickname is Diamond Eugene? I mean, come on, they're not even close. And what's the odds that her nickname is the same as the actual name of her half sister? So I mean, when they're all together, do they are they both Diamond Eugene? Right? They have the exact same name, right? Her nickname is the same as the other name, but it's more than just that, right? If you look at all the evidence that was put together in the film, first of all, right, the real Diamond Eugene actually lives at the address the police went to. They had the address for Diamond Eugene. She lives there. The fake Diamond Eugene lived at a completely different address, right? The real Diamond is actually 16. That's how old she was supposed to be. That's how old the Martin attorney said his girlfriend was. This other fake one was 18 years old. Now, when they interviewed the fake Diamond Eugene, they asked her about her cell phone. And this is really where you see how intricate the plan was because what they did is they took the phone number, the cell phone number from the real Diamond, and they ported it over to a brand new phone that they bought, and they gave it to this fake Diamond so she can actually have the cell phone. And so the police asked her, is this cell phone that you have, is it in your own name? And the way she answers, she says, well, it should be in my name by now. I mean, could you imagine that? It should be in my name by now, implying that it wasn't in her name until very recently, right? She actually let that slip that it was just recently put in her name. Now, the police asked her, right? This is during the initial interview. Did you text message with Trayvon Martin, right? The day of the murder? And she said, yes, we did text. And the police asked her, how many texts? And her reply was one text. Now, I already mentioned that there were over 30 text messages that day between Trayvon and his actual girlfriend, right, Diamond. There are over 30 messages. Now, obviously, she's not Diamond. I mean, how could you confuse 30 for one? Right? I can, get it that okay, nobody knows exactly how many texts they sent to somebody on a given day, but if you sent 30, that's a lot of texts. I mean, I've never texted somebody, I don't think 30 times in one day. Maybe I have, I don't know, but that would be a lot of texts to send one individual in one day. And yes, no one's going to remember the exact amount, but if somebody asked her, "Hey, how many texts did you send?" Maybe she's, I don't know, 40, 20. I mean, there'd be some large number. There is no way she would say one. That is impossible if she was the real Diamond. And of course, if she really was Trayvon Martin's girlfriend, and her boyfriend had just died a couple of weeks earlier, whatever it was, and she was the last person to talk to him, and these are the last texts that they ever exchanged. Don't you think she would have spent some time in her morning, going over those text messages, the last words of my beloved Trayvon, who was murdered, right? She would be looking, she would have some idea, even if she forgot that she sent more than one text message that day. So another obvious lie. She was also asked the name of the cell phone provider. She got it wrong. I mean, how many people have a cell phone and don't know who the carrier is? She got it wrong. She couldn't even get the weather right. I mean, during the interview with the 16-year-old Diamond, the recorded interview with the lawyer, Diamond said that it was raining hard. That's how she described the weather. But then when the police asked the fake Diamond what was the weather like, she says it wasn't raining. I mean, come on, either raining hard and not raining at all. Just another contradiction among many that they had to overlook. But probably the most obvious part of this, right, that takes away any shadow of a doubt, is that when Trayvon Martin's cell phone records are examined, because they're all there, the police have them, you see all the photographs. Not only do you see all the text messages that were exchanged between the real Diamond Eugene and Trayvon Martin, but Diamond sent photographs of herself to Trayvon Martin. They're on his phone. And the photos are of the actual Diamond Eugene. There is not a single photo of Rachel Jeantel on Trayvon Martin's phone. And of course, the other thing is these women don't even look anything alike. I mean, yes, they're both black, but the actual girlfriend is a pretty girl. She's very sexy. It's obvious to see why Trayvon was attracted to her, right? Especially if you look at his other girlfriends. I mean, this guy was a player. He had a lot of girls, before Diamond, and he was a good looking guy. He was a handsome kid, right? And so he was able to get good looking girls. And Diamond was one of those girls, right? And you can see in the text, Rachel Jeantel, there's nothing physically attractive about her at all. I mean, she's not pretty and she's enormous. She's very overweight. She's fat. Is politically incorrect as it is to call somebody fat, she's fat. Because I actually remember when I saw her testify originally. I mean, I was convinced she was lying. In fact, you can go back and look at my YouTube video from the Peter Schiff show, where I titled it, "The Perjury of This Witness." And I said she's completely lying. How can anyone believe her? She's contradicting herself. What she's saying doesn't make sense. She doesn't even want to be there. She's clearly upset about being on the stand, right? They asked her to read a letter that she supposedly wrote. She couldn't even read it because it was in script, which means obviously she didn't write it. So then it was claimed that it was dictated to her, but it was signed, right? The letter was actually signed Diamond Eugene. And they asked her, well, why did you sign it Diamond Eugene? Why didn't you use your real name? She said, well, I signed it with my nickname. But then, of course, in the film, right, they have a handwriting expert who analyzed that and said it is impossible. There is no possible way that Rachel Jeantel could have signed Diamond Eugene the way it was signed. So she lied about signing it. But at the time, right, when I saw the witness and knew she was lying, I didn't believe that it was a plant. I mean, I assumed she was on the phone with Trayvon, right? That she actually was a girlfriend of Trayvon Martin or somehow. But it never made sense to me why Trayvon would have a girlfriend that was so unattractive, that was so overweight. I didn't talk about it at the time because I didn't think it was relevant because, I thought she was who she claimed to be. But it just didn't make sense to me that a young, handsome guy would be interested in a woman like Rachel Jeantel. Well, he wasn't. He did. He barely even knew Rachel Jeantel. I don't know if he knew her at all. He was interested in Diamond Eugene. Diamond Eugene was his girlfriend. Now, who knows what he actually told Diamond Eugene on that telephone call because he was, in fact, talking to her the moments before the encounter. My bet is he probably told her something like, I'm going to go kick this guy's ass. And that's probably what he told her. And she probably thought that he was going to kick his ass because he's an ass kicker. And she did get nervous when she didn't hear from him again, when they stopped calling. And so she was worried that something happened. But I'm sure that if she told the truth, she would corroborate George Zimmerman's version of events, just like all the other evidence, all the witnesses were able to do. And so she basically just disappeared until this movie, this book, and this documentary brings this to light. So, despite the fact that we now have pretty much a bulletproof case as far as I'm concerned, not only of George Zimmerman's innocence, right, but of the plot to frame him, right, that involved the parents of George Zimmerman. I mean, they clearly knew, right, that the witness was not Diamond Eugene, was not on the phone with Trayvon, and was not his girlfriend. The lawyer knew that, who originally interviewed the 16-year-old and who put forth that 18-year-old of a different name. I mean, the question is, did the prosecutors know it, or should they have known it? George Zimmerman has a fantastic lawsuit against this family. Yet the media is ignoring all of this evidence and they're sticking to and doubling down on this narrative. Look, as far as I'm concerned, the lawyer, at a minimum, he needs to be disbarred. But more than that, he needs to be put in jail for subornation of perjury. You cannot put a witness on the stand, A, that you know that's going to lie, but they're even lying about who they are, and you know that? I mean, how unethical and illegal can you be? They tried to frame a guy for murder. He could have been in jail for 20 years or 30 years. This lawyer needs to be in jail. The parents of Trayvon Martin, the motherfucker, they need to go to jail, right? There needs to be prosecution for this type of crime, for this type of perjury. This is way worse than Jussie Smollett, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, yeah, they both lied to the police, but Jussie didn't try to frame an innocent person, right? I mean, maybe you could say later on he tried to claim that maybe it was these Nigerian brothers, but initially I don't even know who attacked me, right? But here you're trying to frame an innocent man of a crime you know he did not commit, right? And they have profited dramatically. Yes, I feel for the Martins because they lost their child, right? But they have to do some self reflection on why they lost their child, why he was so troubled, why he was so violent, why he ended up in a position where George Zimmerman, a guy who is clearly not a racist at all and who feels very badly for having been put in a position where he had to shoot Trayvon Martin, the parents raised him to put himself in their position. They're the reason that Trayvon is dead, not George Zimmerman, not a racist society, but they need to be prosecuted too. They need to go to jail for what they did because we need to send a message that we are not a racist society, that black people are held to the same standards as white people. Right? You can't just excuse this and say, well, they're black, so it's okay if they commit fraud, if they commit perjury, if they try to frame somebody. That's all okay because, they're African American, right? So let's give them a pass. No, I don't want to give somebody a pass because they're African American. I want to treat African Americans just the way we treat white Americans. Can you imagine if George Zimmerman were black, right? And the parents of some white kid tried to frame him for murder with a white attorney. And they did exactly what the Martins did, or whatever. The mother has a different last name, but if they did whatever what Trayvon's parents did, everybody would be calling for these guys to go to jail, right? It would all be about justice for George, right? There was justice for Trayvon. What about justice for George? Where's his justice? Just getting acquitted isn't justice enough. He needs his name to be cleared. He needs to get his life back. The media needs to apologize for the rush to judgment because to do otherwise is racist. To give Trayvon's parents a pass, to give the lawyer a pass, that is racism. That is a double standard that needs to end. See, the country is not as racist as the liberals want you to believe. Right? That's what they don't want you to know. They don't want African Americans to know that racism isn't the reason they're in trouble. It's because of the welfare state. It's because of their own Democratic politicians that they've been electing over and over again, who are trying to scare them into voting Democrat by creating a false picture that they have to fear these, white racist vigilantes who are out shooting black kids in hoodies carrying candy. That is not the narrative. That's true, but that's what everybody wants you to believe, which is why this story, I guess, is so scary. The media is afraid to admit that they were wrong. They're afraid to tell the truth. Individuals are afraid to come out because, again, as I said earlier, anybody who defends Zimmerman is going to be accused of being a racist. Anybody who calls out Trayvon Martin's parents as liars, well, you're a racist. You're a racist for defending them when it's obvious. I defy anybody to disprove anything in this movie. And, a lot of people obviously had to cover this up and say nothing, right? Because obviously friends and family members know that Rachel Jeantel's nickname is not Diamond Eugene, right? They know that. And they know that she was not the girlfriend of Trayvon Martin. And people know the real Diamond Eugene. And they know, friends of Trayvon obviously knew that he was dating Diamond. He didn't keep it a secret. So there are other people out there that know the truth. They need to come forward. Somebody needs to come forward and fess up. Now, I don't think the real Brittany Diamond Eugene, I don't think she should be prosecuted. She was a 16-year-old. She was a minor at the time, and she never actually committed perjury. She refused to do that, right? At least she had enough honor not to want to lie under oath or lie in front of a jury. But she has kept this secret. She has known about it. She knew about the lie, so she's kind of an accomplice to this. But I would give her a pass on that. Also, the Jeantel, Rachel Jeantel. I mean, she is a very low intelligent. I mean, she's was barely literate. I think she was reading and writing maybe at a fourth grade level. And so she was only 18. Yes, she was technically no longer a minor, but 18, you're still pretty young. And I think she was manipulated by the lawyer. I think she was manipulated by the parents. I don't know, maybe her half sister played a role in it as well, but I don't think she really knew what she was doing. In fact, one of the ironies is, and you'll see this when you watch the film, is that during the official interview, right, with the police, kind of towards the end of the interview, she's like looking down and she says, I feel guilty. I feel really guilty. And the guy says, well, why are you guilty? What do you feel guilty about? She says, I don't know about it. I don't know anything. As if she's actually confessing that she actually doesn't know anything about the situation. She doesn't know anything about what happened that night with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman because she wasn't on the phone with him. In fact, they asked her, are you Trayvon Martin's girlfriend in that interview? And she said no. So she told the truth about that. She says, I'm not Trayvon Martin's girlfriend, but she was described as being his girlfriend. And if you certainly look at the text messages that they were sending and the hours, I mean, you don't spend 4 or 5 hours a day on the phone with somebody every single day if it's not your girlfriend. I mean, you don't have all kinds of texts about having sex or about body parts. If you look at all the texts that they were sharing, they were sexting each other. They were sending each other pictures, right? They were clearly boyfriend and girlfriend. Yes, maybe she was cheating on him because she had two boyfriends, but Trayvon was one of her boyfriends. The other boyfriend was another guy. They didn't know about each other, but they were both in love, infatuated with Diamond. And so everything about this, right, about the fake Diamond, right, it's all been exposed. There is no other explanation. So what is George Zimmerman supposed to do? Right? Not file a lawsuit? Why is the media not coming out and exposing this? I mean, this is a huge fraud. This was a huge hoax perpetrated on the entire nation. And here it is in black and white or in video, right, in color, an irrefutable case of a massive fraud, a massive hoax on the legal system, on the American public, and the media just buries it and pretends it doesn't exist. All they're talking about is, hey, let's impeach Donald Trump. Hey, what about locking up the people who put the country through this? I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say, hey, Black Lives Matter all happened because of this lie. The Ferguson effect, what happened with Michael Brown, all this stuff happened because of this lie. So let's tell the truth. Finally, let the truth come out. Let the media do a little self reflection. Anyway, I am going to have, as I said, Joel Gilbert. I'm going to be interviewing him and really have a good discussion about this film. Not so much the proof, because I've already laid that out and you'll see that for yourself. But there's a lot more that I think we need to discuss with respect to this subject than just the excellent job that he did bringing out a truth that should have been out years ago, that the police should have brought out but didn't. And it took a guy like Joel Gilbert on his own to actually spend the time doing the research to uncover this massive fraud.